I don't fully understand, Erator's his conflict with this, unless he just had this misguided idea of what the light was. So Midnight is finally out, everybody. It's been in early access for a couple of days now. It's now officially out, and I'm sure, like me, many of you are probably playing it and are getting your first impressions of the game so far. Probably most of you are not level 90 yet. I'm not level 90. I'm currently level 85 at the time of me recording this. And I felt like I would do a first impressions video for you all, because whenever I stream over on Twitch, everybody is always asking for my first impressions of the expansion so far. That all said, let me just clarify a few things before I speak any further. Number one, very important, this is not a review, okay? And anytime I make a first impressions video here on YouTube, everyone's like, how can you review the expansion or the movie or the TV show or the whatever when you haven't even finished it yet? I know, this is a first impressions video, okay? So this is not a review. My opinion could change. The second thing is that this is going to be a very positive video. So if you are hoping to hear a bunch of negativity fall out of my mouth, unfortunately, you're going to be disappointed. I am sure that some of the things that I'm going to talk about, some of the goods that I'm going to geek out about a little bit, are probably going to be met with some hostility by you guys, because I have found in streaming that some of my opinions about this expansion are not shared by, well, it's shared by a lot of people, but not everybody. So this will probably be a very good discussion video in the comment section. Anyway, let's just dive in and talk about Midnight, shall we? This new expansion. So I guess a good place for me to begin this little Nixxiom talks video is probably just explaining to you all initially why I wasn't too hyped about this expansion, what changed my mind, and how I started to get more hyped as, the expansion drew closer. When Blizzard first announced Midnight, let me just say that there wasn't really too much about this expansion that made me excited. I was very excited for player housing, most certainly. I think everybody was excited for player housing, but I do admit that I sat there as a customer and I thought, do I really want to spend $60 for player housing? I knew I'd have fun with it. I knew that I'd probably get a couple hours of entertainment out of it. But once I built my grand house, whatever I wanted that house to be on my main character, was it going to give me the return that I wanted? Maybe not. I wasn't entirely sure about that. And also, as many people have said, including me, player housing is great, but man, we've been asking for it for over 20 years now. Maybe in some ways it's kind of lost its appeal. I don't know. I've had the pleasure of getting to play with player housing in ESO and Lord of the Rings Online and WildStar and Final Fantasy and all manner of MMO. And so player housing, it's cool, but is it worth $60? Kind of cool. I made a whole video recently as well in terms of Midnight's story, specifically Xal'atath. Obviously the villains are a huge reason why we buy expansions. We want to fight them. We want to kick their ass. Xal'atath is a character that even after 10 years of development with her, 10 years since we first got introduced to her all the way back in Legion, she really doesn't have that much backstory behind her. She doesn't really have that much depth as a villain. We don't even really know what her true objectives are. I made a video actually recently here on this channel comparing her to a character like Garrosh Hellscream. And I got to spend 25 minutes talking about Garrosh's background and all the different layers of it and stuff. And then I talked about Xal'atath's background, and I was able to sum it up in less than 2 minutes. There's really not much to say about Xal'atath. She's just evil. She's just bad. Even after 10 years, we haven't really done much with her. And so I feel that Xal'atath, and just like I saw many of you guys leave in the comments on that video, Xal'atath is probably one of the weaker elements of Midnight, because she doesn't really, aside from blowing up Dalaran, she hasn't really, I guess, done all that much to make us want to kill her, I suppose, and fight against her. A little side note, man, I love the burning steps, in this new graphical look that WoW has. Just look at that, dude. That looks so cool with the distant red fog and stuff. Sorry, love the graphical updates they did in this expansion. Just start a little teaser of what's to come with the excitement. But man, it looks good. Anyway, Well, I guess technically they did a lot of this in War Within, but you know, whatever, whatever. They did some good upgrades over the past few years. Anyway, there really isn't like too much like new big grand stuff that was coming out in Midnight. It's not like they were introducing a new class. The new allied race is just another allied race, and as many of you guys have, you know, I've seen the comments, you know, on this YouTube channel and on X and everywhere. It's just elves. It's more damn elves. Like, you guys are so sick of elves, man. Now, elves are awesome. My character right here, you know, my druid, he's an elf. Nixxiom's an elf. You know, I love elves, but apparently you guys are sick of elves, and I'm kind of sick of them too a little bit. You know, the Heronir or whatever, they're not exactly a, they didn't really generate much excitement behind them as like a new allied race. Yeah, we got like that whole like cantina feature that was coming out in Midnight, but like, okay, it's just like a little cantina we can hang out at and get quests. Like, okay, like whatever, it's just a little sanctuary hub. You know, there really wasn't much to say about World of Warcraft Midnight. There really wasn't, you know? Fun fact, by the way, did you guys know that this little like shoreline right here, if you look at this shoreline in classic WoW, it actually is a perfect replica of the shoreline in Durotar in this area, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's up here, but they are perfect mirrors of one another. It's just the same shoreline, copy and pasted, including the ships and stuff. So fun fact. But moving on, you know, there were some cool things coming out with Midnight. I liked the Quell the Lost rework. I loved the idea of going to, you know, fight against the Amani trolls again in Zulaman. That sounded awesome. Like, you know, there was some good stuff coming out in Midnight, but maybe not $60 worth of good stuff. You know what I mean? So I sat back and I thought to myself, you know, maybe I'm going to skip this one. The first World of Warcraft expansion that I was going to skip since I started playing this game all those years ago. And I was sitting in a cigar lounge with my friend Michael, and he also is a big WoW player. We sit, we smoke cigars, we talk about WoW together. And I told him that I wasn't going to play Midnight, that I was going to skip it. I was just going to play classic WoW and just totally be a classic Andy for a little bit. And he was like, okay, you know, whatever. And then we kept talking about this, that, whatever. And he kept going back to this subject. Like, so why aren't you going to play Midnight? So why aren't you going to do it? And then eventually Michael, God bless him, he pretty much, well, we were already sitting, but he metaphorically sat me down and he was like, bro, like, I just can't let you go on this. Like, this, like, why are you going to skip Midnight? Like, I don't get your reasoning behind it. And I laid it all out. And he pretty much said, like, bro, it is like your moral obligation to play Midnight. You know, you've been playing WoW since 2005. You're this WoW content creator. You've been this huge PvPer over your WoW lifespan, a huge raider. You've done years of role playing in the game. You've made machinima. Like, you have touched every facet of this game. Everything this game offers, you have touched it and you've played it. And like, you owe it to your audience, Nixxiom, he said, to play this damn game and like give your opinion on it. And I was like, yeah, I guess. So anyway, reluctantly, I said, fine, I guess I'll check out Midnight. I guess I'll check it out, but it's probably not going to be anything special. So that was some time ago, like a few months ago when that conversation happened. And since then, you know, I started, you know, looking at what was coming with Midnight. I started like PvPing more over on like classic WoW. I got the itch to PvP in the War Within. I leveled up this character to level 80 in the War Within, started doing battlegrounds on him. I was having a ton of fun playing a balanced druid. It was great. I got to play around more with the housing system in the War Within beta, which I really wasn't playing that much of. I just checked it out very briefly. I was looking at the changes they were making to the classes and stuff, and I thought, you know, this sounds interesting, I guess. And just long story short, as time went on, I began to become a little bit more excited for Midnight. Even if I did have like some small criticisms here and there, even if I did have some like, yeah, you know, whatever, I just thought to myself, you know what, at the very least, I will level up my druid to max level in this expansion and I will kick some horde ass. Because that's what you do, man. You know, Blizzard, they're trying to do their whole thing, like reduce the faction conflict, Horde and Alliance, working together, blah, blah, blah. Man, I ain't got time for that. You ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that, dude. This is World of Warcraft, bro. All right, World of Warcraft. That means war and violence and unnecessary like conflict, right? So that means I gotta level up this character to max in Midnight or whatever, and I gotta go out and I gotta collect me some Horde foreskins. All right. Anyway, that all said, I was excited to do some PvP, and I have been PvPing on this character in Quel'The Lost, and it's been a lot of fun. And so the expansion has come out recently, and now I get to share my first impressions of it with you all. Did it live up to the hype? Is it disappointing? You know, whatever. So let me begin by just talking about the good. First and foremost, the remastered Quel'The Lost looks absolutely incredible. Like, all the new zones look great. You know, if you've flown around Zulaman or whatever, it looks fantastic. You know, Blizzard's art team always knocks it out of the park. And, you know, even like these graphical updates that we've had recently, like with the past 2 expansions, have just been incredible. You know, the foggy terrain in the distance, the fact that you can literally see the Void Storm with the Sunwell, like all the way, like you can see it all the way from Stranglethorn Vale. That is incredible. I absolutely love that about this expansion. The visual look of this expansion is incredible. The music is incredible. And I admit, bros, and I'm sure you guys are thinking the exact same thing that I am, like, seeing this remastered Quel'The Lost has only made me want to see a remastered Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor all the more. I mean, we have been looking at this Cataclysm map for how many years has it been since Cataclysm? I don't even know. I'd have to Google it, but it's been a long time. I think you're sick of it. I'm sick of it. And we want to see a brand new, you know, remastered Azeroth. Like, that would just be incredible to see. Imagine, you know, a remastered Ashenvale or Tirisfal Glades, a remastered Gilneas. It would look beautiful. And I really hope, you know, people are saying that that's what they're going to do with The Last Titan. It's going to be a big world revamp. And maybe not, but I'm excited. You know, you got the classic WoW world with the whole classic and TBC and Wrath servers going on. And then you got like the brand new like retail world, and like, you know, seeing that contrast between the two will be a lot of fun. Anyway, so the art, you know, fantastic. The music, fantastic. I think that we can all agree with that. New Silvermoon, absolutely beautiful. In terms of the gameplay itself, I mean, it's a brand new WoW expansion. The gameplay has been very solid. You know, the dungeons that I've gotten to do so far, they have been fun. The delves have been a lot of fun. Just the class and how it plays has been enjoyable. I always tell people, this is what I told my wife, I was like, if you want to play a class in World of Warcraft where like you can't see a damn thing on your screen because there's so many sparkling lights, just play a balanced druid, dude. It is insane. Like, just so many starfalls, so many laser beams, so many treants shooting more moonfires and stuff. I love it. I think it's great. So gameplay as a balanced druid has been fun. Playing as a restoration druid on the side has been a lot of fun. Gameplay has been great. You know, the quests, of course, you know, it's a brand new WoW expansion. Blizzard has kind of nailed their gameplay, the smoothness of it. Even like the launch of the expansion itself was very like smooth. I didn't have to sit in some long queue or anything. It was very, very nice. In terms of the story so far, you know, I've talked about Xal'atath in previous videos, and I, you know, briefly mentioned her in this one. You know, Xal'atath is kind of a weak villain compared to previous Warcraft villains. Much better than the Jailer, though. Let me just say that. So some of you guys in that Garrosh and Xal'atath video were like, Nixxiom saying that Xal'atath is worse than the Jailer. And I'm like, I didn't say that. All right. I didn't, you putting words in my mouth. So yeah, Xal'atath, you know, she's a bit of a weak villain, but the thing that I've liked about this expansion so far, at least so far, is the fact that Xal'atath really hasn't had much presence in the expansion. Like, yeah, we deal with her when the expansion first begins and there's the Battle of the Sunwell and stuff. But once that's over, Xal'atath she just runs off to do her thing. You know, she goes up into the Void Storm and she's hiding up there, and we're not really seeing her very much. You know, she's not really, she's more of like a, what's the best way to put it? Like, she has a presence, but she's not present. It's almost like Sauron in The Lord of the Rings, like, you know, or Melkor, you know, if you've ever read like Children of Húrin or The Fall of Gondolin or something, like a little bit of interaction with the evil one, but really not that much, but you feel their presence and their will like everywhere. And I really like that so far. I think that's good. I don't know, like I'm just looking at Xal'atath right now as she's just a force of evil. Like, she's not really a character that has depth or complexity or whatever. She is just like a force of nature. And that's how I'm looking at her right now. And honestly, in looking at her like that, I'm actually enjoying her a lot more. And one thing that's been really nice with the story is the fact that because Xal'atath has taken a really big back seat, we've spent a lot more time with characters like Turelion and Eretor. Now, this is where I'm going to step into a part of the video which I think is going to get me into a little bit of trouble, because it's a mixed bag. You know, some people really, really like the story of Midnight so far, with Eretor, with Turelion, and like the whole dynamic going on there. Some people really like it. Other people, they don't like it very much. For me, I'm personally really, really enjoying it, even though, I mean, some of it doesn't really make much sense to me. So, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Quick recap. Turelion, he's one of the leaders of the Army of the Light, right? And Eretor is his son. Alaria, the High Elf, she is his mother. And let's go over to Kalimdor. Why not? Yeah, let's go over to Kalimdor and fly around a little bit. And there's a lot going on with these characters in this expansion. On one hand, we have this relationship between Eretor and his dad, and like that is being explored, how, you know, his father and his mother, they were off for many years fighting the Legion and the Void and whatnot with the Army of the Light, and they just left Eretor alone. And then there's the whole dynamic of Eretor, and he's struggling with his relationship with the Light. No doubt you guys saw that like 2-minute cinematic that Blizzard put out with Eretor, and he is fighting all the forces of the Void, and then he goes like full like light nuke mode, and he's almost like disgusted by like what he allowed himself to do, and he's, you know, trying to rub the embers off of his chest because he's so uncomfortable by the fact that the Light went from being this like comforting, nurturing like sensation to being this like pure force of power and you know, domination over his enemies. And, you know, he kind of tapped into that, you know, however you want to describe it, that raw primordial like light power, I suppose, and it made him just very uncomfortable. And so this relationship between Eretor and his relationship to the Light is explored very extensively in Midnight. And for some people, it's a big hit. For some people, it's a big miss. For me, I've really enjoyed it. Although, as I said a few moments ago, there are some things about it that don't really make much sense, I guess, in the philosophy of it. And I suppose I should explain what I mean by that. I'm not going to spoil anything. Don't worry. Nothing in terms of like new lore or whatever. But in World of Warcraft lore, just so you know, a little bit of context here, the Light and the Void are sort of like these two primordial energies that, to my understanding, predate creation itself. So originally there was the Light, according to what I remember, and the Light is kind of churning in its own glory for a bit. And then there are these pockets where there is no light in the infinite expanse. And these pockets are called the Void. And the Void kind of grows in its presence. And then you kind of have the Void and the Light are churning against each other for a while until eventually creation kind of comes out of their conflict. And bada bing, bada boom, you know, however many billions of years later, we have Azeroth and so on and so forth. So the world is kind of the reality as we know it is like this byproduct of the eternal conflict between the light and the shadows. So World of Warcraft almost has this, dare I say, this Zoroastrianism sort of thing or sort of theology going on. If you don't know what that is, Zoroastrianism is like you've got a good God, and that's God, and then you've got a bad God, and they're like constantly like at war with each other. And the good God is the source of all the good in the world, and the bad God is the source of all the evil in the world. And that's it. Like that's reality. Good God and bad God are just always fighting each other. So it's like this this holy duo, if you would. But Warcraft does it a little different, because in Warcraft lore, the light can be used for, well, evil purposes. Like you have people like the Scarlet Crusade, for example, that turn the light towards their, you know, very zealot, nefarious goals and stuff. And then you also have people that can use the void for very good purposes. Like you have Ilaria, for example, hunting down Xalatath and trying to stop her, even though Xalatath is an agent of the void just as much as Ilaria is a user of the void and stuff. And so because you have this thing going on where people that use the void can use it for good and people that use the light can use it for evil, the void and the light are not bound by any sort of like objective moral standard. It's not like, the void requires you to be evil to use it, or the light requires you to be good. And this is something that Erator knows. Like, this isn't like some strange mystery or whatever. Like, he knows about the Scarlet Crusade. He knows that they're bad and that, they use the light anyway. He knows about his mother. I mean, his mother is an agent for good and, an agent for protecting the world. And yet she uses the void. And so I think the thing that kind of, I guess, confuses me a little bit about Erator is that he is being confronted by people that are misusing the light or using it very cruelly. And, the light's even kind of giving him this power that's making him very, reckless and bloodthirsty, I suppose. It's a power that comes from his hate and his wrath and his whatever within his heart, as opposed to like peace, tranquility, and humility, like what he normally associates the light with. And Erator is trying to kind of make sense of this. When I almost feel like the answer is just obvious, like because the light and the void are not, because they're not bound to any sort of like objective moral standard, like that just makes them another form of magic. You might think, for example, like, oh, arcane is only for good people. Only good people can use arcane magic. But then if you see a bunch of baddies using arcane magic, then that just means that arcane magic is just simply arcane magic. Like, you can use it whether you're good, bad, or something in between. Like, it doesn't matter because arcane magic doesn't care. And neither does the light and neither does the will, or excuse me, neither does the void apparently, because neither of them lack a will that tell them to care. A Scarlet Crusader can wield the light just as much as Erator can. Ilaria can wield the void just as much as Xalatath can, and the void doesn't care. So it's just another form of magic. So I don't fully understand, Erator's, his conflict with this, because I feel like the answer is just kind of obvious, unless he just had this misguided idea of what the light was. He thought the light was this great source of comfort, but he didn't realize that it was just another source of magic at the end of the day. And it's a source of magic that inspires people to be more humble and be more righteous and be more virtuous. But ultimately, the light is just another tool, no different than arcane or wild magic or whatever. And anybody can tap it and anybody can use it. In fact, Blizzard even has Alonsis Fowl talk about this at one point in the quest chain with Erator, where Alonsis says something which I don't really know what I think about this. He says that all these different cultures around the world, like Night Elves honor Elune, and the Tauren have Anshe or Anshi, worshiping the sun or whatever. Like all these cultures that draw upon like healing power and stuff like that, it's all just the light. Elune is just the light. The sun god with like the sun walkers and thunderbuff, it's all just the light. Like it's all the same thing ultimately. And everybody has all these different religions and cultural expressions of how they interact with the light and stuff, but it's all just the light. I don't know. I think that's kind of boring in my opinion. I'm kind of hoping that like Alonsis Fowl is just saying that because he is a follower of the light and he sees like common ground between these different cultures and stuff. So he kind of believes in this almost like theological relativism where he's like, yeah, you know, you're a follower of Elune, but, you know, you're worshiping the light, you know, you're just doing it in a weird way because you're a weird ass elf, you know, but it's all the same at the end of the day, you know? So I kind of hope that that's wrong. I suppose that, you know, he's just saying that, but I don't know. I like the idea that like the light is vastly more complicated because it predates creation. Like it literally created the idea of creating. Like it created the idea that up is up and down is down. And therefore it's not bound by any sort of like natural law or rule or structure that we see reality through, like through our lens, through our mind. You know, it's just infinitely beyond us in its complexity. And so I'm kind of hoping that the light kind of falls into that territory. And same with the void as well. Like these are like two forces that no one can wrap their mind completely around. You can only see like these glimpses of an understanding of what they are. I don't know, but I do find it interesting, and I do appreciate what Blizzard is trying to do here. And this is why I'm actually really enjoying this, because Blizzard is trying to create a sort of like an exploration of the conflict of faith within an individual. They're trying to write, you know, this more complex story with this character, especially in his relationship to his parents. I mean, Ilaria is of the void, Terrellion, his father, is of the light. And what does that make him? And I think to anybody who, like, I have friends like this, like anybody who maybe grew up in a mixed religion household, you know, maybe dad is a Catholic and mom's a pagan or like whatever, I don't know. Like you kind of sit there and you're like, man, what do I do? Do I choose one or the other, or do I create like a syncretism between the two? So I'm very curious to see where Blizzard takes this character. All that said, though, I do have one criticism with Eretor as a character. Just something that Blizzard has been doing for a while now, something that is kind of like, it's just everywhere, dude. And I'm a little bit sick of it personally, but it is this old, outdated, boring trope. And it is the child knows better than the parent. It's everywhere, man. Like you see it in so many like Disney movies and Pixar movies, and you see it in WoW, and you saw it with Anduin and Varian and such. Like it's this story where you have like dad or mom believes in something, whatever that something is, and their worldview is flawed for one reason or another, and they need their child to come in, and the child somehow finds the better worldview, the answer, the whatever, and then the child teaches the parent like the true morally correct path or something. Like again, this is such an overused trope, and so far at least that's kind of what I'm seeing with Eretor and Terrellion. Terrellion is this big zealot of the light. Ilaria is like nowhere to be seen right now in the expansion, at least not where I am, so I don't know about her. But like Terrellion is like this big zealot, and he's just like, yeah, we gotta kill the enemy, like go, 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 like fuck the civilians. And Eretor is like, no, like we can't lose ourselves along the way. And you know, Eretor is kind of teaching his dad how to be like morally good, because his dad has lost the plot, I suppose, or lost the point. And I personally don't like that. I mean, that's fine to have that sort of trope in like maybe like a kids movie or something, but like kids, like, yeah, maybe sometimes, you know, they can teach like mom and dad something. Like maybe, you know, we as parents, I mean, I'm a parent myself, maybe we in our adult lives, we kind of lose our enchantment of the world, and we kind of lose our sense of wonder at like the we lose the magic of the ordinary. And kids kind of remind us of that, like just the joy of climbing a tree or the joy of whatever. But, you know, when it comes to like deeper moral issues, I mean, what I would prefer is it to be the opposite. I would have liked it if Eretor had been the one who's like, he's losing the plot, he's losing control, and he needs his father to come in and give him guidance, you know, as fathers often do, to be like, my son, you're going crazy, boy. Like, you know, I gotta, that boy ain't right. You know, I got to pull him back in, and, you know, I got to set him on the right path. I think that would have been way more interesting, at least in my opinion. And it probably would have related a lot more to WoW's audience today, because I guarantee the majority, or at least a huge chunk of WoW's audience today, are older men, probably in my age range, like in their 30s or something. And we all got kids now. We're all raising them and stuff, you know, including me. I mean, I like the story with Erator and stuff so far. I've enjoyed it. I think I've barely done Zulaman, but we kind of like jump into Zulaman pretty easily. It's kind of like the Blood Elf army just kind of shows up, kills a bunch of trolls, and then they're like, oh, the Void are attacking you. Let us in to help you. And the trolls are like, no, you're an idiot. Like, get out of our land. Anyway, help us kill 10 Void guys. Like, the intro to Zulaman, I've seen a lot of you guys saying, even when I was streaming earlier today, people are kind of pointing out like, yeah, the intro to Zulaman kind of sucks. We kind of just get in there too easy. It's like too convenient that they just let us in and we just start helping them. But everyone has told me that the Zulaman story gets really good, and to you know, to brace yourself, because it's very enjoyable. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but I guess we're gonna find out. But yeah, the story's been fun, man. You know, I like the tension as well that we've seen in Silvermoon City. Maybe Blizzard is backpedaling a little bit, or maybe not backpedaling, but that might be a strong word. But over the years, you guys know it, I know it, we've seen so many people complaining over the fact that WoW has lost its faction conflict. And the faction conflict, going all the way back to Warcraft 1, Orcs and Humans, is like one of the bedrock foundations of this game. And Blizzard like violating the holiness, I suppose, the I don't know the word for it, the whatever, like Blizzard violating that and like being like, no, the Horde and the Alliance are working together now as friends, like, but not against like a threat. Like, they're actually like working together now, like even when there is no threat. Like people don't really like that very much. But you do see in Silvermoon City, like, you get these quests where apparently, you know, Horde and Alliance, they're like getting into like little bar fights and stuff. They're not happy, like, you know, working side by side. Lorthramar is not happy that there's a big Alliance presence in his city now. He's clearly annoyed by it. This has been really enjoyable to see. This has been very enjoyable to see. I've liked it. Is it the beginning of the seeds of a new faction conflict between the Horde and the Alliance? I don't know, but it would be interesting if Blizzard, you know, has given us this little window of peace between the Horde and the Alliance, and then something happens down the road where, like, you know, all the Horde races and all the Alliance races look at each other across the battlefield and they remember why they don't like each other. So maybe we're seeing the seeds of that. I don't know. I mean, all that said, man, this has been a very long recording. I thought this would be like a 15-minute thing. All that said, it's been a fun expansion so far. You know, I've enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's a brand new WoW expansion. And bros, like, I've done this rodeo so many times, just like you guys have. Of course, the new expansion is good in the beginning. Of course, the new quests are fun and the story is interesting. And, you know, ooh, look at the new graphics and look at the new dungeons. Of course, there's a lot of bliss and fun and enchantment and wonder in the beginning. But you got to give it that time, man. You got to wait to see if the cracks form, you know, in the whole, like in the whole system. Like, where's the expansion lacking? Where is it struggling? Where are the problems at? And that's only really going to be seen at max level. And I'm not there yet. So, but what we've seen so far has been enjoyable, at least in my opinion. And I hope that you guys are enjoying it too. I know that there's probably going to be a number of you in the comments section down below that are going to be perhaps quite peeved at the fact that I'm not here just, you know, well, crapping all over Midnight. But no, I mean, I've genuinely enjoyed it. Blizzard really needs to give us like an actual burned Teldrassil model, by the way. Just a side note, this ugly PNG image just on the horizon, like, bro, do that world revamp, Blizzard, and get that ugly PNG off our screens, man. No one likes this thing. But anyway, guys, I guess that's it for right now. I don't know of anything else that I could talk about. I've been doing a lot of world PvP, which has been great. I've been doing a lot of world PvP, not even intentionally, man. Like, I just sometimes accidentally turn on my PvP thing, and then suddenly people start attacking me and I have to blow them up. But I ain't complaining, because it's been a lot of fun. I hope that you guys are enjoying it. Once I hit level 90 and, you know, start doing some end game content and whatnot, I'll give you guys a review. of, you know, what do I think about it? What cracks do I see? What do I think about the story once I actually finish it? Other than that, you know, thanks for watching, everybody. And I suppose I'll see you all in game, either in the battlegrounds or in the raids or in the dungeons. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you with my next video.